Iran loves to rattle sabers. But this time, they may have gone too far. They've launched True Promise 3, a new wave of attacks targeting Israeli military sites. And now, they're escalating threats against the US itself. After a recent US strike on Houthi positions in Yemen, Iran issued a chilling warning. Any attack on Iranian soil will be met with devastating force. On March 31, IRGC Aerospace Commander Amir Ali Hajizadeh spelled it out on national TV. The Americans are sitting in a glass house, and when you're in a glass house, you don't throw stones. Strong words for a country that most Western analysts agree couldn't win a conventional fight against the US. So why is Iran talking like this? Is it just bluster, or do they know something we don't? Because while Iran's air force is outdated and its tanks are decades behind the times, it's what you don't see that might matter most. So today, we're taking a hard look at Iran's military. What's real, what's laughable, and could anything they've built actually threaten the most powerful military on Earth? Let's find out. Now, one man who isn't taking the Iranian threat overly lightly is US Central Command or CENTCOM boss Marine Corps General Kenneth F. McKenzie Jr. On April 20, 2021, he told the House Armed Services Committee these small and medium-sized UAVs proliferating across the area of operations present a new and complex threat to our forces and those of our partners and allies, and added, for the first time since the Korean War, we're operating without complete air superiority. To be sure, despite crippling sanctions from much of the world for over a decade, Iran has made significant progress in the field of UAVs and drones, and more about that shortly. But perhaps the Iranians have even nastier tricks up their sleeves. Speaking aboard Iran's newly commissioned Shahid Bagheri drone carrier during a naval parade in the Persian Gulf on March 27, IRGC Navy Commander Rear Admiral Alireza Tangsari said, Iran has developed advanced weaponry, including long-range missiles enhanced by artificial intelligence, to counter American military tactics. The enemy only sees a fraction of our capabilities. What they witness on the battlefield will be entirely different. Global Firepower lists just 57 vessels in the Iranian Navy in its 2025 side-by-side comparison between the US and Iranian militaries. War Power Iran puts its naval force at 97 hulls, consisting of 24 submarines, 10 surface combatants, 21 offshore patrol and attack craft, and 24 amphibious assault craft. Yet at the naval parade in the Persian Gulf at which Tangsari spoke, over 3,000 naval vessels reportedly participated. That number included a wide mix of units, everything from small patrol boats to civilian maritime assets, and featured allied forces from Lebanon, Iraq, and Yemen, all conducting a joint show of force. The Shahid Bagheri itself, a newly commissioned 590-foot-long vessel equipped for UAV and helicopter operations, and arguably the closest thing Iran has to an aircraft carrier, doesn't yet appear in either Global Firepower or War Power Iran's list, likely due to its recent commissioning on February 6, 2025. So clearly, there's a gap between what's known about Iran's forces, at least publicly, and what they actually have. But do they have anything that can seriously threaten the US? One area where that possibility can be pretty much definitively ruled out is Iran's dilapidated air force. To say that the US has a massive advantage over Iran in terms of aircraft doesn't come close to defining the gulf between the two. In fact, the bulk of Iran's fleet consists of second and third generation US and Soviet planes and helicopters from the 1970s, and various attempts to produce homegrown knockoffs of the US designs. Altogether, the different branches of Iran's military are estimated to have around 778 active aircraft at their disposal, of which 39% are helicopters and other rotorcraft, 34% are combat aircraft, and the remainder are transport, training, or special mission aircraft. The combat fleet includes 63 McDonnell F-4 Phantom IIs, the Vietnam War stalwart that was replaced by the US military in the 1980s, along with 41 Grumman F-14 Tomcats, 31 Northrop F-5 Tigers, 23 Soviet Sukhoi Su-24 Fencers, 20 Sukhoi Su-22 Fitters, 19 MiG-29 Fulcrums, and 17 Chinese Chengdu F-7s. All of these planes, with the possible exception of the F-7s, were state-of-the-art once upon a time, back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Today, War Power Iran generously describes them as obsolete, near obsolete, or aging needs attention. Iran is believed to have a standing order for modern Russian Su-35 fighter jets. For years, talk centered around a potential purchase of 24 aircraft, though that number has never been officially confirmed. Only in early 2025 did Iranian officials finally acknowledge that the order was going ahead. Yet no delivery dates have been made public. These jets would certainly freshen up Iran's aging fleet. But in the meantime, as mentioned, Iran is focused on reverse engineering older designs, most notably the F-5 Tiger, a relic of its pre-revolutionary ties with the US that it continues to replicate and modify for domestic use. The first effort based on the F-5 that made it into production was the Hessa Azakaresh, which debuted in 1997, although only 6 are known to be in active service. It's more or less an exact copy of the F-5, complete with a single fin tail unit, twin engines, single crewman, and wingtip missile launch rails. The Hessa Psyker, formally introduced in 2007, also with a production run of just 6, is also largely based on the F-5 framework but has outward canted tail fins. And the most recent attempt, the Hessa Kosur, introduced in 2018, looks like a direct copy but with space for a second crewman in tandem. With the Kosur as the pinnacle of Iranian aviation production, and just 4 of them known to have been produced, it's highly unlikely the US's military brass is shaking its boots at the prospect of taking on the Iranian Air Force. That's unless the shaking is due to uncontrollable mirth. Compared to the US's B-2 bombers, F-18 Hornets, and F-35s to name but a few, it's not so much a case of men against boys as fresh young men against tired old men. Another area where Iran's military is certainly greatly disadvantaged compared to the US is the quality of training, equipment, and arms provided to their ground forces. To be sure, they're not short of numbers and quantity has a quality of its own, but in a country where sanctions have made it difficult to get essentials like basic antibiotic drugs, as you can imagine, outfitting a vast army with quality gear, arms, and ammo has left their soldiers hopelessly under-equipped compared to NATO standards. The Iranian military is divided into 3 main branches: the Artesh, or regular army, the IGRC, and the Faraja, or LEF, basically the police force. The Artesh has some 420,000 personnel, divided between the ground forces, Navy, Air Force, and Air Defense Force. These troops are further organized into 4 armored divisions, 2 mechanized infantry divisions, 4 light infantry divisions, 6 artillery groups, 2 special forces commando divisions, an airborne brigade, 3 to 4 commando brigades, an unknown number of aviation units, and other separate armored and infantry brigades. The IGRC also has a ground force, a navy, an aerospace force which includes the Al-Ghadir Missile Command, the IGRC Quds Force, which handles unconventional warfare and intelligence, and the Basij Reserves. There are an estimated 190,000 personnel in the IGRC, plus around 450,000 in the Basij, while the Faraja has between 200,000 and 300,000. That's a large army, and keeping it in a fit state to match the US Army simply hasn't been possible. To some extent, that's down to a simple matter of budget. The US has just announced a new defense budget of around $1 trillion. Iran's defense budget for 2024 was just $15.5 billion, well under 1% of what the US spends. And it's been like that for decades, primarily because Iranian military capacity was depleted by the Iran-Iraq War in the 80s in ways that the US has never been, and it's taken decades to recover, exacerbated terribly by sanctions. But the bottom line is that while US soldiers enjoy battle-tested infrared vision, advanced body armor, serious first aid kits, and state-of-the-art arms, ammunition, and communication, Iranian troops for the most part have had to make do with much less. That said, in the 2020s, the indications are that Iran has steadily improved the state of its ground forces. For example, in recent years, new homegrown rifles have been introduced. These include the Masaf II 7.62 by 51mm battle rifle, introduced in 2021, the AK-133 7.62 by 39mm assault rifle, an Iranian adaptation of the AK-103, introduced in 2016, and the Nukjir or Hoshdar 7.62 by 54mm sniper rifle, an Iranian version of the SVD platform, also unveiled in 2016. How well these new weapons, or for that matter the stockpiles of Cold War-era weapons, perform in actual combat is largely a matter of speculation. Iran hasn't fought a ground war since the war against Iraq in the 80s after all. The same can be said for Iran's heavy weaponry. In 2021, the Iranian military had 1,663 main battle tanks, 725 reconnaissance and infantry fighting vehicles, 640 armored personnel carriers, 2,322 towed and self-propelled howitzers, and 1,476 multiple rocket launchers. The sheer amount of equipment sounds impressive. In some aspects, Iran's stockpiles actually exceed the US. For example, Iran has 2,070 towed artillery pieces versus the US's 1,212 and 1,517 mobile rocket projectors against the US's 641. But again, the key point isn't so much about quantity as age and quality. Many Iranian pieces, such as the UK's Chieftain tank, US-made Sea Cobra attack helicopter, and M113 armoured personnel carrier, were first-rate weapons for their time. But much of it is very dated by today's standards. So, Iran is actively trying to modernize its weapons, for example, by introducing the Qarar main battle tank. After being derided originally for failing to back up their boastful claims that it could deliver this tank within 1 year, production eventually did begin in earnest, and around 100 have been delivered since 2021. Also, in January, it was announced that 1,000 multi-purpose reconnaissance and combat drones had been delivered to the army. The Navy is another area where Iran's power is magnitudes less than that of the US's 11 aircraft carriers plus 9 helicopter carriers. Iran's totals in these categories? 0. Iran has 25 submarines, but only a handful are full-sized. Most are small, short-range vessels designed for literal combat. We're nowhere near the endurance or capabilities of America's stealth-enabled nuclear-powered fleet. Then again, perhaps a straight-up side-by-side comparison of the two navies isn't the most useful way of looking at it. The US Navy is designed to project power across the planet, ultimately forming one leg of the US nuclear triad, the ultimate deterrent. Iran's, on the other hand, is designed primarily with the defense of the waters in its own backyard, the Persian Gulf, and in particular the Straits of Hormuz in mind. And in that respect, while hopelessly inadequate as an expeditionary force or platform for sea-based assaults, the Iranian Navy could at least be a serious nuisance. Like the US, Iran continues to upgrade and re-equip its forces, including the Navy. In December 2023, it was reported that Iran's Navy took delivery of an array of new equipment, including the Talayiyeh, a strategic smart cruise missile with a 620-plus mile range and the ability to switch targets mid-flight. The Nasir, a short-range cruise missile with a range of over 62 miles and a 286-pound warhead featuring an active radar guidance system, an unspecified multi-purpose drone-based electronic warfare system, a diver detection system, a new surface-to-surface missile system, and the Servan, a new tug. But more importantly, Iran is estimated to have around 5,000 naval mines and has equipped some of its fast attack speedboats with rapid mine-laying abilities. While it's not clear how effective their mini-subs are, in a dense naval battle, it's likely that they could cause damage to an attacking fleet. And all things considered, in the absence of decisive blows crippling it before it gets a chance to take action, the Iranian Navy definitely seems to have the ability to attack oil tankers and other transport ships in the Straits. With between 20 and 30% of the world's oil and LNG supplies transiting the Straits, carrying precious energy from all the Gulf states to destinations like Europe and China, any disruption could have profound negative effects on the global economy. The threat level from this kind of Iranian operation was raised significantly with the announcement in March that the IRGC has stationed new air and coastal defense missile systems on the Greater Toom, Lesser Toom, and Abu Musa, these highly strategic islands west of the Strait of Hormuz. With this deployment, Iran has gained the capability to target enemy bases, vessels, and assets in the region at ranges up to 370 miles, according to Tangsiri. This would enable Iran, at least in theory, to target the US garrison Al Dhafra air base in the Emirates and block American warplanes flying out of bases in Bahrain, Qatar, or Kuwait from approaching the Hormuz Strait. IRGC's control of the sea could extend to the Al Udeid air base in Doha, the largest US military base in the region, and Naval Support Activity Bahrain, HQ of CENTCOM, and home of the US Fifth Fleet. Of course, the effectiveness of this move depends largely on the quality and quantity of the missile systems deployed there, and if, as General McKenzie pointed out, Iranian UAVs and drones have changed the parameters of a potential clash between the US and Iran, there are 3 other areas where the threat posed by Iran also should be taken more seriously. These are hypersonic missiles, air defense systems, and electronic cyber warfare. In the aftermath of Israel's attack on Iran in October 2024, US envoy to Israel, Amos Hochstein, claimed that Iran is essentially naked right now with no air defenses. US officials claimed that the strikes had taken out Iran's remaining 3 Russian S-300 air defense systems, having destroyed the first in its earlier attack in April. They also claimed that very few, if any, of the Israeli missiles fired at some 23 sites from over 100 participating aircraft had been shot down, and that Iranian missile and drone production had been seriously damaged, particularly as a result of the strike on the Shah-Rud Space Center. However, no hard evidence has been produced to verify these claims, which is unusual for the Israelis, who are generally not shy about showcasing the results of their military successes with high-quality video footage. Rather, the evidence suggests no shortage of twisting the truth in these statements. Footage from the night of the attack clearly shows Iranian air defenses successfully taking out numerous Israeli missiles over the skies of Tehran, with only a single small impact being recorded. This contrasts greatly with footage from Iran's attack on Israel, dubbed True Promise 2, where dozens of missiles were seen making impact at various locations, particularly at the Naval Team Air Base in the Negev Desert, the main base for Israel's fleet of F-35s. Israel described its air defenses as having performed impressively during the strike, but did not release specific interception figures. The widely cited claim that 99% of the missiles were shot down refers to Iran's earlier April attack, not this more recent assault. There is little doubt that numerous Iranian missiles were able to breach Israel's multi-layered air defenses, which are considered one of the best in the world, bolstered by substantial air cover provided by the US and other allies. According to the Iranians, the strike involved Ghadir and Imud ballistic missiles, plus the new Fateh 2 hypersonic missiles, with 90% successfully hitting their targets. Given that around 180 missiles were fired, but recorded impacts only numbered in the dozens, there's possibly another attempt to stretch the truth with these claims as well. Such is the fog of war. Additionally, the accuracy of these strikes has been questioned by US analysts and media, with some estimating that fewer than half of Iran's claimed direct hits were actually successful. However, that assessment has itself come under scrutiny. Satellite imagery from the Naval Team Air Base, including visible impact damage to several hangars built to house F-35s, suggests that the Iranian strike may have been more precise than publicly acknowledged. At the same time, Western military experts remain skeptical of Tehran's claims that some of these missiles were truly hypersonic. Nonetheless, Hochstein's claims that Iran's air defenses have been destroyed are clearly false. Their S-300s are just one component of what is known to be a dense, multi-layered air defense system that uses a variety of radar, networking, and surface-to-air or SAM missile systems. This network includes the Khordad-15, which reportedly has the ability to detect, intercept, and target up to 6 projectiles at once, including drones, cruise missiles, and manned aircraft at ranges up to 124 miles using the Sayad-3 missile. The system is also said to have anti-stealth capabilities, capable of destroying stealth targets at ranges up to 28 miles. In January, the Tasnim news agency reported that these air defense units had been deployed at the Fordow nuclear site in Qom province and the Kolnab nuclear complex in Markazi province. And in April, it was reported that Iran had begun installation of a further 2 Ghadir radars in the south of the country, to add to the 8 already functional and another already being installed in the north. How effective these systems really are remains questionable, but Hochstein's claims that Iran is essentially naked seems less credible by the day. Perhaps he meant that Iran was naked compared to Israel, which has reportedly been shipped a second US-made THAAD air defense system, considered the most advanced radar system in the world. Then again, back in 2020, IRGC AF Commander Brigadier General Amir Ali Hajisadar claimed that IRGC forces had successfully exercised an operation to incapacitate the THAAD missile defense system in the course of a massive war game. Maybe he's lying, maybe he isn't. Certainly, like all air defense systems, the THAAD's missile delivery system can be compromised by the use of drone swarms. Both Ukraine and Russia have had success in overwhelming air defense systems like the Patriot and S-400 with swarms of cheap drones, forcing them to fire off their much more expensive missiles, leaving the systems depleted and the assets they're defending vulnerable to follow-up strikes by missiles and drones. And although the Israeli strikes may well have disrupted Iranian missile and UAV production as claimed, Iran still appears to have massive stockpiles of both. In January, Iran released footage of one of its underground missile cities, claiming it showed just 10% of the full facility for security reasons. The video depicted miles of missile-lined corridors in a high-tech complex described by Iranian commanders as a dormant volcano that can erupt at any moment. While it's unclear whether the footage was authentic or digitally enhanced, the display was clearly intended as a warning to adversaries. A similar base revealed earlier that month appeared to be more focused on naval and submarine operations. Was the footage exaggerated or carefully staged for maximum effect? Maybe, but it would be pure hubris not to take the message seriously. Iran is believed to have dozens, if not hundreds of such facilities scattered around the country containing tens, if not hundreds of thousands of missiles and UAVs, dug deep into the earth and inside hollowed mountains. Are they vulnerable to the US's 30,000-pound GBU-57 bunker-busting bombs, which would be the weapon of choice to attack these facilities? Does the US have enough GBU-57s to take them all out? We can only speculate. It also remains to be seen whether there's any truth to Iranian claims that it's capable of tracking the radar footprints of individual F-35 stealth fighters, or to bombard the radar and communication systems of enemy aircraft with radio waves to disrupt their operations. If true, these capabilities would certainly compromise and complicate the US's attack plans considerably. In the meantime, Iran keeps announcing new AI-guided missiles, UAVs, electronic warfare, and air defense capabilities that, at least on paper, seem worthy of consideration before drawing up plans to attack it, if not objects to fear. If an initial decapitation strike to take out leadership, air defenses, and missile cities doesn't go as well as intended, the potential for destructive retaliation against the 60-odd US bases under CENTCOM's command, Israel, and the oil and gas fields of the US allies in the neighborhood doesn't feel like an outcome that should be taken as lightly as some Western analysts suggest. But what do you think? Does Iran stand a chance against the US? Are Iran's latest weapons likely to be as dodgy as their legacy arsenal? Are there particular Iranian military technologies that concern you, or are they all simply just bad? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and thanks for watching.